guys, Kosk here, Fish here. Fish is the main man here. He got second yesterday at the WA States. We built this deck together, so it's really cool that it went good. I got COVID FTK'd, so I couldn't go. Fish, how did the day go?
Yeah, the day was really good. It was really stressful because I've never topped a major event before, and it was just really tiring because no breaks for 8 hours. Yeah. I played pure branded Despia. I just felt like it was the best deck, and also it's the only deck that I owned, so I was kind of locked in. Yep.
The list?
Alright, so first card, 3 branded fusion.
11 of them, so...
Yeah, so the 3 branded fusion, 3 Alibi to search the branded fusion, 3 opening to search the 3 Alibi, and then the 10th and 11th copy were Gold Stark and Forged Burial, which searched Tragedy. So
and Tragedy searched Alibi, which got fusion. So we just wanted to have as many ways to get to fusion as possible.
Yeah, so Tragedy searches any Despian monster. If you open Alibi or fusion, then you'd usually go into Adlib, which is the main combo piece. Summons a Despia or fusion monster from your graveyard or banish zone, which is just how most of your combos and boards are made.
But sometimes you need to try to choose the weaker play, just so you don't get punished as hard.
Yeah. 2 value cards. You don't really want to draw them most of the time because you can search them. Brand and red and brand banishment.
Only need 1 red, guys. Like, you only need 1 red. Can't stress this enough.
As soon as banishment came out, it replaced the second red. It's really broken, but it just needs a bit of setup. So they can be a bit of a brick if you draw them without going off your first turn. But if you resolve 1 or both of these during your opponent's turn, it's so hard for them to do anything because you can just mirror jade them like twice on top of everything else that your deck does.
And we're not playing Lost. So we're not playing the Allure engine. It adds consistency, but also increases inconsistency because you add a bunch of random cards that you don't want to draw without drawing Allure or without drawing stuff to combo.
Because Allure is a 2-card combo, but if you don't draw both of them together, then they just kind of suck in hand.
Yeah, and then without those cards, Lost sort of sucks, so we just didn't play Lost.
So next we've got the branded fusion targets. I only ran 2 Fallen of Albaz. We're running 3 initially, but it doesn't really do anything in hand. It's also very, very searchable, and you put it back into the deck in the main combo that you make anyway, so you don't really need that many of them. 1 is a bit scary because if you draw it with fusion, you're going -1 from hand, but 2 is really good.
And the main reason that we even thought about playing 3 was the fact that if you do get Ash, you can hard draw it and poly with it, which will come up. And Snow is just broken. Snow is so stupid.
Yeah, you need a light target to summon Albion, the branded dragon, and Snow is just the best one there is. You can dodge Veiler, dodge Imperm, and obviously just in the grind it's really good because you get to use all the stuff in your graveyard that you've already gone through.
And if you open like Patchwork or a way to get to a dark to graveyard before you activate fusion, you just send Snow, so you just get Snow in graveyard as well, and then you can just do the same play as you would have done.
Yeah, you go through so many cards on your first turn, you can have a live Snow on the first turn on top of your normal board if you open the right hand, and it's just really hard to beat. Next up, we've got the Patchwork engine. So 3 Patchwork, 3 Agent Chains, and 2 Polys. Patchwork is obviously really broken. You add 1 of each of these cards in your hand. As soon as you discard or fuse off with this, you add Patchwork back again for next turn. A lot of the time, I didn't really save it for the next turn. I just end up discarding it off like Super Poly or Lubellion and stuff like that, just because you get so many pluses from it. The reason we only ran 2 Poly was there's only so many monsters in your deck that you can really draw. And most of the time, you'd rather see Patchwork than Poly anyway, because yeah, if you get Chain into Patchwork, you get Poly regardless, so you don't really need the 3rd copy.
Yeah, the other 2 cards are just more powerful to see, especially with like opening with Chain or like Chain opening or Rebellion Chain. Like, it's just such a good feeling.
Yeah.
So you just gotta play free Chain.
You just get to keep comboing free basically with just cards from your deck. another effect of chain that came up, I think once or twice, is if you summon it and you declare an attack with it, you actually get to add another copy of chain to your hand, which you can then use to basically set yourself up for next turn. If you've already used Patchwork into chain and you have nothing else, you can at least set up another chain for the next turn in your hand.
Especially if you're just going to bash it with Mirror Jade anyway sometimes.
Yeah. And that's basically it. The rest of it is all the extra techie stuff. So we have 10 hand traps. We've got 3 Ash, 3 Nib, 2 Imperm, and 2 Veiler. Initially the list was running 0 hand traps, which felt cool because everything was like a full, almost any hand was a full board, and you could.
That was when we were playing like the lures and stuff, right?
And the Lost Engine, and
yeah,
you could make crazy boards, but it just felt so bad going second. If they had any sort of interruption, it was impossible to play through it. So then we decided we wanted to run some sort of interaction going second. Ash was the first choice. Then after seeing how good Ash was in the main, we decided to put more hand traps in just because.
We initially started with 3 1-on-1 until last night.
Yeah. But after playing in Saturday's event as well, I just felt like we needed more hand traps just because if you're going second, you can threaten games so easily. So if you stop them from making an unbreakable board, you can basically just win the game off that first turn that you have.
And just like for context, the night before, Fish called me at like 12 a.m. or something, and we were originally just playing these cards, and these were not in our deck, and we were playing an upstart and 40 cards. We're playing 41 right now.
Yeah.
And just because we just wanted to see Alupa as much as possible, so we played upstart and 40. But I agreed that putting these 2 extra hand traps in would be nice, just because like he said, should we do this? And I was like, you know what, it's like you're going into the event, so you have to be comfortable, and it was a good choice in the end. He ended up like versing a lot of punk synchro and stuff, and I think it was just a really good meta call to put those extra 2 hand traps in because it really helped him.
Yeah, and I think most or a lot of Despia branded lists coming from the YCS as well, almost no one was maining Nib. So this caught a couple people off guard, especially game 1. People just play into it, and if you can resolve a Nib, it's just the single highest, has the single highest impact on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last card.
And then the last cards, these were the probably MVPs of the day, mostly these guys. A big part of the reason I wanted to add an extra Veiler and Imperm was because in testing and on the Saturday, sometimes I would draw cross out, which would feel really good, but then I'd also draw the only copy of Imperm or Veiler, which would then make it feel really gross, especially when your opponent had them. So having extra hand traps allows me to interact more going second, and also makes the crossouts a lot more consistent going first. And then Cold Buy obviously is just really good.
Yeah. And we came to the conclusion about a week ago maybe that we had to just play crossout going forward because Ash is really good against Fusion, and we just want Fusion to resolve, and it has been so good, like letting Fusion resolve, and if not just Fusion, like if they have like something for Labellion, like Veiler or Imperm, just hitting it is so good. And then obviously game 2 and 3, be able to hit Barrier, which is a really silly card.
Yeah. Cross-outing Barrier.
Cross-outing Barrier feels so good. So I'm really glad that we played this card.
And then we're expecting quite a few mirrors. I didn't end up playing any. I played 1 Predaplant branded, but I did get to resolve crossout on their branded Fusion, which felt really good as well. I didn't have the Ash, but I opened 2 crossouts, I think. I played 1 on my turn and then set 1. And yeah, they pretty much couldn't do anything that game.
Alright, should we do extra?
Yep. That's all for the main deck.
Should be pretty easy.
Extra deck is mostly pretty self-explanatory. So the main Albaz Fusions, we've got 2 Labellion because it starts your combo probably 90% of the time. Mirror Jade is your boss monster, it's your end board. Mirror Jade plus some other fusion most of the time if you open well, or just Mirror Jade if you don't. Albion is the main main cost that you want to send with Mirror Jade because it sets up your branded in red or branded banishment for interaction, and then Titaniclad because sometimes you just need a really big beater, and then sometimes you need this to play around Nib because in the end phase you can basically remake your whole board if you have Titaniclad.
Yeah.
With Mirror Jade. Did actually come up once yesterday. I didn't have to summon it to beat over anything because I just don't think it came up. But it can get up to 3/7 or more if you just summon it normally with Branded Fusion. Yeah. 2 Rebellion didn't actually come up for me yesterday, but
It comes up in the grind though.
in testing and other times it has come up. I think I was lucky yesterday. I didn't really get Rebellion, Veiled, or Impermed, or I had Snow or something else to play around it. 2 Mirror Jade definitely needed, and 3 Albion I think came up a couple of times as well because you want to be sending this as much as you can off Mirror Jade just to get so much value.
And then you summon one sometimes.
Yeah, and that's another good reason to have Titaniclad because once you send the first Albion, if you make another Mirror Jade, which you do very often, you want to have another name to send because you can't activate 2 Albion effects in the same turn.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite card in the extra deck is Masquerade, the Blazing Dragon. It just doesn't let your opponent do anything and it's busted in time. One game, I think in my top 8, going into time, I made a huge board, ended on a Masquerade, Mirror Jade, some other stuff, and like 2 or 3 back row. My opponent prosperitied into evenly, so I just left Masquerade up, banished everything else, and then it was really scary. He was playing Drytron.
Playing Drytron, so he could gain life with Cyber Angel
Natasha. Yeah. He went like 5k life points down trying to build a board where he could loot Natasha. I'd never seen the card before yesterday, so I was kind of confused, but I was feeling very safe. Just sitting on Masquerade and literally nothing else, because he had to go into main phase 2 and he couldn't attack. And yeah, he just ended up activating like 20 effects or something.
He just couldn't get there.
Yeah. Also, Masquerade is just you feel really safe sitting on Masquerade because even if it gets destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can always summon it back as long as your opponent has any extra deck monster. So this blocks a lot of stuff and it gives you more bodies to summon the next card, which is Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera, very broken. If you resolve it, you usually win the game. You get to just make a really big body, which has 3/3, so almost nothing in most people's main decks or extra decks can beat over it. You draw and destroy up to 3 cards, basically. And almost every time you're chain blocking an effect with either Tragedy or Adlib, so your opponent usually can't respond to it.
Yeah.
And if you have Poly in the graveyard, it can't be targeted either, so you can't even Veiler or Imperm it. So this card's just really good. It lets you fuse with so many things at once, so you can activate a lot of the Despia effects as well. The last 3 one-offs. These are things you don't make that often.
See, I like this card more than Fish. Fish makes Masquerade a lot, I make this a lot.
Yeah. When I wasn't sure what I was playing against, I think I make Masquerade more, but Dragos Depelia can be really, really good if you know what they're making and if you have the right back row. Just because having an effect negation on a 2/7 body, if you know that they're not going to be able to just summon something really quickly and attack over it, it's really good.
And the fact that it like level manipulates as well. So like if you're missing a synchro deck, you make their guys level 1.
Or an Xyz deck as well, yeah.
Yeah.
This is really good on your turn 1 combo. It's also really important Super Poly target in the mirror, but I don't think that came up because again I didn't see many mirrors yesterday. Queritus is the card that you summon probably the least. Actually, this is the second least in the entire extra deck. But when you do summon it,
it's the best option.
Yeah, it forces your opponent into really awkward situations. The materials are the same as Masquerade, but you almost never want to summon this over Masquerade. It's just that if your opponent has pretty much anything, it forces out a negation, and unless they can bounce it to the extra, it's going to force probably like 2 or maybe even 3 interactions from them, because you can activate this effect to make your opponent's monsters go to 0, which threatens beating over them. Also, it summons a Fallen of Albaz on when it leaves the field, so you can
If they negate that effect, then
you can
like,
try and super poly their field, and then if they don't negate the summon, then obviously they have to do something to the Albaz, or that's going to kill them.
And last card is because we respect Harrison.
Yeah. 1/15 of my deck dedicated to one single deck, one single matchup.
One single person.
And I still lost to him anyway. Yeah. On to the side.
Alright.
So, side deck. First thing, I think the most important was these 5 cards here, because we're very scared of things like Mystic Mine,
Yeah.
what's the Anti-Spell Fragrance.
Like these two are mainly for like bigger
Eldritch.
trap decks.
Eldritch,
Um,
and just rogue decks.
And like every matchup, I said like literally every matchup before, because I went through siding with Fish before the event, and I said I think almost every matchup, especially like the synchro decks and stuff, they're all just gonna side anti-spell going first, like even more than probably barrier, they'll side anti-spell. So he sided this in going second like almost every time, and
Yeah.
he just drew it against anti-spell with it every time. Like,
Yeah.
what it sounds like.
There's one unfortunate punk synchro player who I won't name, but I'm sorry. I had the Cosmic to out the anti-spell, and also
he had a Punisher on the
Psychic
field.
and Punisher.
And then because he paid 1,000 for Cosmic, Punisher became
Actually
affected.
dead on board. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's pretty funny.
So I think I only sided in Twister once. I didn't side in Reboot at all, but Cyclone pretty much every match.
Yeah.
Next up, some extra kind of hand trap or monster interaction. Token Collector, obviously just for Sword Soul. Also Brave, but the Brave decks we kind of had other or better side deck options. This here was mainly for Thunder and a little bit for a couple other matchups. Didn't see any Thunder. The one time I sided this in and resolved it on turn 1, it got twin twisted in the draw phase, so
Yeah,
didn't
I
really
think
come up.
I said it to Fish. I think we should have decided one more Infirm just because it's another Baguska out. Because I don't know, Baguska's pretty scary.
Yeah,
But yeah, we
didn't get
Didn't.
Baguska, so that was
Yeah.
good. This card is really brutal, especially when combined with Nibiru. Yeah, Sword Soul just can't do anything. 3 D barrier. So going first against Sword Soul, again more Sword Soul side decks, and also in the mirror. And there's like a couple other decks, just like weird rogue
and
decks. that
siding one
synchro
going
a lot.
second against like every deck.
Yeah,
Literally almost every deck siding one going second for your cross out.
Yeah, going first, if you draw this, you pretty much auto win. And because we're maining the 3 crossouts, I just put 1 in just because so that I can actually play on that second turn. Yeah, and it worked out really well. And last card, Super Poly, just really good against the mirror, obviously, because you can fuse off entirely using their own board. And then came up a couple of times against Drytron. I sided in against Herald of Perfection just because obviously that card's really hard to beat.
Yeah. And like, we didn't main this because it's just another one of those cards where, well, it's like, it's either that or hand traps, right?
Yeah.
So, because like, you're not going to take any edge in place in our deck, and we just didn't want any more cards that did nothing against certain matchups and stuff like that.
It's kind of like Branded in Red or Branded Banishment. It's kind of a bit win more, but then it's less useful than those cards because this makes you go minus most of the time, whereas Banishment and Red make you go plus, and this is a bit more restrictive in what you can use it on. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's good deck, and you did a good job, Fish.
Thank you.
This is what he got.
Yeah.
And he got a Switch Mirror, which he gave to his girlfriend.
Yeah.
She
She didn't believe in me. The cost did.
Yeah, I got at least keys as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believed in Fish. And good congrats to Harrison as well for getting first. That was cool. Any shout outs or anything?
Shout outs to Leon for lending me cards, Charlie for lending me cards, and also Harrison for lending me cards that he still beat me anyway. And of course to Kosk for helping me come up with, learn, and get most of the cards for the deck.
Oh, good man. Did a good job. So
yeah. Obviously, would have loved to have you there as well, but
yeah,
unfortunate.
You know what COVID's like.
Yeah.
Next time I want to get COVID FTK'd, I'll get swine flu FTK'd. Alright. Yeah. Well, that's it pretty much. We're out.